Welcome to the Wisdom Circle. To subscribe or follow us on your favorite podcast platforms, please visit us at www.thewisdomcircle.com.
Emily, speaking of great work, so you're focused on research. That I'm being very basic. You can do a little better job of describing that. Twofold question. One is, why is research important relative to the business you're in? And two, was research something that you had a love about, or it was sort of like it was the first avenue that opened up and you liked it and kept growing, and it ultimately would be a means to an end?
Yeah, I think I'll start with the second question and then go into the first.
Okay.
So I always thought I wanted to do marketing, doing some creating campaigns or activations and, all that creative type of stuff. And then I went to St. John's and actually I first was majoring in business. I went to Midnight Madness, the start of the college basketball season. And my eyes were this big and I think my mouth was open the whole time. The next day I went and switched my major into sports management. So business, still thinking maybe marketing, experimental, not really sure. And then on a sports management, one of the career nights, I met Ramon. And he was speaking of what he was doing, where it's like the sponsorship solutions and the research and the data. And I thought that was really cool. And thinking back in high school and growing up, I loved math and I loved, all the numbers and that stuff. So as much as I wanted to be the super creative person, I really was a numbers nerd in disguise. So I started with Comcast and, in data, and that's how it started. And, going from sponsorship solutions to programmatic research to just general research, our sponsorship type research when I worked for a sports marketing agency. And now, unfortunately, I guess when I was at the sports and marketing agency, COVID hit. So I was laid off. Unfortunately, sports got hit pretty big, or all entertainment live events got hit crazy. So when looking for a new job, I really was applying to anything and everything that I thought I had some type of skill match. And I got this job at a media agency. And one of the skills was actually something that I learned at Comcast in my first career. And I liked it. I'm like, I could do this. It's not sports, but I could do it. So I started, and what I work in now, the department is competitive intelligence. So we have our clients, and it's basically informing the client what their competitors are doing in terms of advertising, where they're spending, what they're spending on, how they're spending, what are they showing in their spots, and now more recently, the why. Can we figure out the why they're doing a certain thing? And then can we predict what they're going to be doing? So going back to your first question of why is research important, I think it's just you need to understand the marketplace. You need to understand what everyone else is doing to be able to be competitive. I work for the biggest retailer in the US, Walmart, and it's not sports, but let me tell you, it is very fast paced. There's no slowing down with Walmart and a media agency.
Yeah.
So, being able to think of that background and that data. And I always think of when I first started at Comcast with Ramon and Ray, how they used to say, when you first, back in the day, a deal was made by just, I like BMW, or I like Coca-Cola, or I like Budweiser. Let's have them advertise with us, or let's buy a spot with them. But now there has to be a reason. There's not just because I like it. There needs to be that data behind it, and looking at historical information to make decisions. If something didn't work, you need to know why. Or if something's working for a competitor, you need to know why. How do we compete? And that goes all the way from Walmart to your local pizza shop. If you want a Tony versus Ray's pizza shop, if Ray wants to compete against Tony, he needs to know what Tony is doing.
So, Emily, more great stuff. And thank you. I think when I speak with students or any young group, if it's, first, sometimes when there's a new employee luncheon to say hi to people, I talk about not knowing where your career is going to take you. And if you think you know, you don't. And if you try too hard to get where you want to get, you may miss some really great opportunity. You wanted sports marketing, as you said. You love the data and research part. Tony and I have this ongoing conversation. He's like, I'm not all that interested in B to Y. I like to go from A to Z. And I'm like, yeah, I like A and B and C and D and E. And you've kind of skated to the puck, right? Like you're in exactly where the world is. It's all about the data and it's all about research. And how'd that happen exactly for you?
Yeah, I mean, going back to that St. John sports management night, I think that was really what started my career. And, I was always kind of a shy person. So going up to speak to Ramon was definitely out of my comfort zone. But he sounded so interesting and I wanted to learn more. I'm like a curious person. I ask a lot of
Right.
questions and I always want to know more and more and more. And, you know, not just in my career and school, but my personal life. My sister, if she was on, she would say, Emily asks too many questions. Every time she meets someone, she's asking them 1,000 questions. And,
That's great.
by the end of the night, I know everything there is to know about a person. So just being curious and building relationships, starting again with Comcast. And, after a while, I wasn't too sure if, what I was doing at Comcast was what I wanted to be doing, like totally. But I had that relationship with my manager, Ramon, and I was able to be honest and say, this is my first job. I don't know if this is exactly what it is. I like it, but I don't know if this is it. And having that open, honest communication and having that background of relationship, he was able to, why don't you check out this? I could connect you with this person. I went to the Stanford location a few times. I was working on a project with a marketing guy and, exploring different avenues and building those relationships. So each time I went into a different position, I worked in research, but I was able to talk with other people, see what they were doing. Would I like to do that? Would I not like to do that? And just learning more everywhere I went. And still now, I ask so many questions, and my team will probably tell you I'm annoying that I always say, why? Well, why? Why do you think this? Why do you think that? Why? And find all that information in the background and being a curious person.
Sure. Curiosity is a really important part, certainly of research, but I think just in life, and especially these days, because there are so many times somebody will say something and I'll have my phone. Well, we have the technology to find out why. So yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you ask why? So that's that. Yeah, tell you. I think that was the Socratic way of getting to the truth. You just keep asking questions.
Right.
Good for you.
Right. And even with my career, like, why did I not like something? Why did I like something? So it helps you eliminate it. And, looking back, did I think I would be here now? Probably not. But I love what I do now. And I have different aspects of research and, bringing in that curiosity and those relationships and the networking has helped me really get to where I am today. And I couldn't be happier.
That's great.
What's key about that, Emily, is I think particularly for your fellow young people is that everything's a foundation. I think Ray and I will get questions like, well, how do you get from A to Z in a career? And there is no direct roadmap. There's not a GPS that says turn left, go right, keep going straight for 3 miles. It really is a process. And you're following your instinct, but everything's a foundation. And a quick example, when I was doing some teaching at Columbia University, we were working with the NWSL, some of the athletes, giving them a 6-week sort of master's in sports marketing program. And they were like, well, when my career's done, I want to get in sports marketing, but I have now no experience. I said, you have experience. What is being an athlete? It's hard work, discipline, teamwork, commitment, all those things we talked about earlier. So that is a foundation. Don't let anyone tell you. And one of my things I really despise in the business when people do interviews and they say, well, you don't have 3 years experience in X. It's like, well, but I have 5 years experience in Y, and that can really bring something different to the business. So, everything to me is a foundation of building on something. And then when you're, our age, you'll look back and say, oh, look what I did. I started at Comcast as an intern, the USTA, had that interface with Ramon at St. John, and now I'm president of Zenith. So, and those things happen. You can't, they're
No,
not promised, but they happen. So,
and that's the fun part of any career journey. I mean, there's the destination. I don't know what I had no idea I'd be working at Telemundo Sports at the end of my career. I didn't know. I thought I was going to be a disc jockey when I graduated college, not a sports seller or buyer. So that's fun. Got to be open.
Yeah.
Emily, one more question, and then let you ask one more question, and then we probably need to wrap up. But do you see, Ray and I always get into not arguments, but good, healthy conversations about
Healthy
this.
conversation.
In the workplace, do you see differences between, say, a baby boomer and a Gen X versus millennials and Gen Zs? In other words, do people, I'm sort of leading the witness here a little bit, but do younger people realize they can learn from someone who's maybe 20 years in the business? Or do they say, that person's sort of old news, this is how we're going to do it? Like I read an article today that Gen Z and millennials still pick up their phone. Like, they let it ring, go to voice message, and then they text back. So, I don't know how salesmen do that, Ray, but that's what it said. But anyway, let me let you answer that question if I haven't confused you.
Yes, 100%. There is a big difference. Not necessarily bad, right? Because you have to learn from the people who are there before you and people who are older. But I'm also learning from the people who are younger than me, and looking in research and data. There's so many new, media types. If you think when we first started, there wasn't really social media like that. I think Snapchat had just came out, and now there's so many more. So as much as I would like to think that I know a lot about, these new things, I don't, and even AI. So um it's a mix, like you have to learn from the people who are older, but you can't forget about the people who are younger. And it's also different ways of working as well. I think, with COVID has changed a lot. There's a lot of remote working and, virtual type of working. The older generation might like to be in the office a little bit more than the younger generation. I think there's a shift that's happening of I work to live versus I live to work, or vice versa, live to work to live. So it's a little bit more of the younger generation teaching the older folks to let go a little bit, and it's okay to turn off, which I think has been great. It's tough, but we need, it's COVID changed a lot. So we're learning from the CEO down to the intern. You have to learn from both. No one is, they might have more experience, but it doesn't mean that the knowledge is any different.
That's great perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's important to know, and that's a great insight, and that is very different. We did not care much about what the youths of America were thinking, but it is much more, and I do believe it has so much to do with COVID. It's just the world we live in has changed, and the workplace, et cetera. So it's good to be open to that, because those who aren't will just kind of fall off.
Well, everything's an evolution. If you go back, limited women in the workforce, if you go back 50 years, right? Men wearing white shirts and ties and suits and being very whatever. And that evolves to like, okay, now let's be 50-50 here. We got females and males. Let's go to casual. You don't always have to have a suit and tie. So it is evolving. Even a part of the time that Ray and I worked, it was evolving even back then. So it's not the craziest thing to think that it would keep evolving, which is what you just articulated really well. Any last question, Emily, or anything you would like to impart before we sign off? You've been a great guest and have a great perspective on things, but anything you want to add before Ramon turns the lights off on us?
Yeah, well, first, thank you for having me. And I've been listening, so I love the perspective. And I guess the one last thing that both of you touched on a little bit when answering my first question about becoming a manager, and a little bit of like having that confidence, which I am working on. And I briefly mentioned I was shy, like growing up. So what have you done or that makes you build that confidence a little bit more to be, front stepping and a better manager? Because, I feel like as a new manager, I want to be confident and sometimes I lack it.
I'll take that one
Go ahead.
first, and then you go. And I think that's where the word patience comes in. You've got to play 162 games. You have to bat 590 times, and you have to swing it or not. It's really one of the things I find about the younger generations, the Zs, Xs, and Millennials, is they want it now. And there are things that just don't come now. And managing is patience. You have to have enough confidence to know, I know what I'm doing. I work hard. I'm smart. I'm going to go to work every day. I'm going to set an example. And over time, I will improve everything. And people will follow me, and some will fall off, and I'll realize this person's not that good. They just whine a lot. This person's very quiet, but they're amazing. That's a patience thing. That just takes time, in my opinion. Tony, feel free.
Yeah, no, I think, what's the saying? If you don't love yourself, no one else is going to love you. And I think it's sort of the same thing. If you don't have confidence in yourself, no one's going to feel that confidence in you. And believe it or not, I was shy when I first started in the business as well. And you build confidence by doing. A quick analogy: when I got the job, I talked about heading up the media and sports marketing. I had to call, at the time, the commissioner of the NBA, which was David Stern. And in my mind, it was like, why would David Stern even take my phone call, right? And then I had to say to myself, well, wait a minute. I'm on top of a $500 million budget. I oversee this stuff. Of course he's going to take my phone call, which he did. And over time, we became great friends. So you have to sort of talk to yourself a little bit and build that
inner dialogue.
Yeah, and and the other saying we hear a lot is, it's okay to make mistakes because that's how you learn, and that is really true. It's like, so if you just think about it as, if you don't have confidence and you need to build confidence, just have those talks with yourself and lead, and to this day. Even if I'm leading, this will sound a little crazy, but if I'm leading a golf game at the club and I've got 25 guys looking at me like, okay, what game are we going to play? And, what's the strokes and all of this, all of a sudden you're being tested, and you think about it, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I have to show confidence. Here's the game we're going to play. It's going to be fun. I'll keep the score afterwards and do a write-up, and that's what we're going to do. So in a way, it never leaves you, even with 40 years of experience in the business, you're always being tested in your own mind or by people. And it's just, you can do it. So just do it,
Mm-hmm.
and you can do it now, not to be preachy.
Yeah, you didn't get there by accident. There were people who watched
Yeah.
you for 3.5 years and they promoted you. That's kind of, they can't all be wrong. Inner dialogue. Be positive. Just be
And
positive.
the one little thing, and then we'll sign off. And here I am filibustering now. But
Yeah, you keep threatening to end the show, Tony.
I know. When you're a leader, sometimes the peer group wants to sort of keep you with them, and that's a tough thing. It's like, come on, Emily, don't be so tough on us. Or come on, let's go get a beer, or let's go do this. And I think the toughest thing as a leader relative to peer pressure is saying, no, this is what we have to do. This is what's right, and sell that in, because the troops want to keep you with them. They don't want you to go this way, right?
People don't like to dance to change.
Yeah, it's a human nature. And so when they say it's lonely at the top, there's a little truth to that.
That's true. Yeah.
But
then if you like yourself and you believe in yourself, it's easier.
I'm going to let Ray sign off. It was great talking to you and meeting you. It was a great pleasure for me and privilege. And Ray, I'll let you sign us off.
Thanks. Thank you. Well, Tony, once again, thank you for a great episode. Emily, so happy and excited for you. Stay focused, stay positive, believe in yourself. You're doing great. I mean, everything you said today just shows me how successful you're going to be. So just keep going. Keep going. It was, you're doing some great work.
Thank you.
And congratulations on all your success.
Thank you so much.
All right.